a hair on my screen. I can't help it. So how do you want to get started?
I don't know how to start. It's like we're doing
this is take 2.
Yeah, we had to do it again because my mic was turned off.
Yeah, it was on mute. It was picking up my audio on my mic.
Because it doesn't help that the aux cord thing is right next to the mute button.
Yeah, we go all the way back to the production room, and we upload the videos and that, go to edit it.
And it sounds like I'm in a room.
Yeah,
it sounds like all echoey and
like you're in a tin can.
Yeah, and you sound excellent. And it's like we can't use that.
No, we couldn't use it. So we have to come back here,
re-record,
yeah,
and talk about similar stuff that we've come up with something new to talk about.
Well, maybe something better, because we were pretty boring before. But but no, we're going to be talking about training camp.
Yes. We were wanting to talk about that, our experience.
I'm going to go over
witness.
Yeah, and I'm going to go over injury report, kind of, and just
talk about hit on a couple things about the show, moving forward, and how it's going to function, and all that stuff.
And then kind of like what we're going to be doing maybe next week, and how that will transpire next week, and what we're going to be talking about. I can tell you right now, I'm a Steeler fan, but you're the one that knows all the technical stuff. And
I honestly haven't been watching that much football until the last couple years. It was whenever Ben Roethlisberger had his last season, and I watched towards the end of that season of his, like week 16, 17.
But you really get into football, though.
Yeah, now I'm rather, like, I know some of the newer players. I know when they were, like, drafted and all that stuff, but some of the players that have been playing for 5 years, I might not know when they were drafted, but I know most of their names. So,
and I've been I've been a fan of the Steelers really since their last Super Bowl with the 70s team. So with, Franco Harris, Terry Bradshaw, and all that group, and it was the last Super Bowl that they won. That's about when I got plugged into Steeler football. But I've been a fan pretty much my entire life. There was a period in the 80s where they really stunk, that I kind of like was going through school and later on in college, and kind of like lost touch a little bit, but now I'm back full swing. But we're going to be talking about training camp here today, and our experience with training camp. You want to take over?
So one of the most important tips that we will make sure that we do the next time we go to training camp is don't leave your house and try to expect to get there 30 minutes before.
Yeah.
Because we were in line for training camp. There's like a bunch of vehicles on Route 30 for training camp, and we were sitting there for a long time.
Well, first of all, we live in Latrobe. So we're from Latrobe. And for us to go to training camp only takes us like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we leave the house with like maybe 10 or 15 minutes thinking, we'll go there, get up a spot. By the time we get there at 2:55, it was a later training day.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get there at 2:55. We'll get right in, and it'll be, easy peasy. And
there was a lot.
And we're sitting in traffic for 45 minutes.
And another thing that doesn't help is that there was no internet connection, and they said, you got to have the tickets ready. Like, you have to have the tickets on your phone. You can't print them. And I'm just irritated because I didn't have any internet connection to get the Ticketmaster. So it was a little bit of a hassle.
Well, and it's not really our service as much as it is that area.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Next to the airport. It does not have a very good internet connection with any service. Because, my wife has Verizon, and she has a tough time in that area as well. But we have T-Mobile, and it's probably not the greatest. But I usually have no problem in Latrobe other than that area.
Yeah. So just to get ready, if you ever decide to go to training camp for your first time, or maybe you just been there before, but make sure that you're there at least an hour prior to when it starts.
Yeah.
And then have the ticket master or whatever you use to get the tickets ready.
And make sure you go with somebody that actually acquires all the free products they're handing out. Because we walk in and I'm walking behind Alex and they're like, "Hey, would you like a free football?" No. I'm like, really?
Well, I'm so used to going into the mall and stuff, and then they have these kiosks and whatnot, and that's just what I'm used to. So I'm just so used to denying things and all that stuff.
What is it that you take from training camp?
So what I take from training camp is, I was evaluating Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. They were making similar throws, so they were doing deep balls into the end zone. I noticed, now I don't know if they were trying to do this, but I noticed that Justin Fields was throwing the ball in the tighter windows. So it's not that I can see Justin Fields being better, but more or less I can see Justin Fields delivering some of the harder throws. So that's just what I get from it.
Anything else? I mean, I know that you mentioned something about Jaylen Warren.
Yeah, I noticed that Jaylen Warren was doing a lot of outside runs while Najee Harris was doing a lot of the through the trenches. He was like going more through the middle and all that
stuff.
Through
the gap.
Yeah, through the gap.
Yeah.
And personally, there was instances where I saw Jaylen Warren running through the middle, and he didn't even get touched. Like, he just bolted right through. Sadly, he was injured more recently, so I'm hoping he could get back.
Yeah, and we'll go over the injury report. But one of the people that I really focused on, only because he was like really quick, is Calvin Austin III. I mean, there's no doubt about it that this could be a breakout year for him. I mean, that guy's quick. And I'll tell you, when you get the opportunity to see him in these drills with other players, other wide receivers, and first of all, they're all amazing, but to see how fast his cuts are, it's unbelievable when you compare that to other receivers, because he is that much faster, it seems. And he really stood out to me because I would sit there thinking, see how many balls he drops. And he didn't drop one that I saw. I mean, he caught every one because he's so fast that he's at the position before the ball's even there. And not that the ball's delivered as soon as he turns around, but it seems like he turns around a little quicker than what everybody else does, so he can focus more on catching it. And so I'm hoping that that during the regular season, I think that, Pickens is probably going to be covered quite a bit, maybe double teamed. But that might open up a window for,
Calvin Austin to shine.
Yeah, to shine a little bit.
Yeah, and it honestly, from what I've seen over the past couple of years, is that when it comes to how Calvin Austin plays, it comes down to the quarterback, obviously. There was many instances where he would be arm's length distance from the from the opponent's cornerback, and the quarterback or whatnot would just throw too far, and there's just instances that Calvin Austin should have been made possible catches and return it for a touchdown.
Well, and the thing is that he's 5'9", so he doesn't have the height that some receivers do, but he does have the speed, which really helps him. Where Pickens is taller, okay, and he can catch some of those circus catches that you see during training.
Yeah, I actually saw a video earlier today about Calvin Austin and his running speed during the 40-yard combine.
Yeah,
and it was a 4.30, so he ran about 4 seconds just to go 40 yards, which is really good. It is honestly really good of how fast he is.
Now, do we know how tall George Pickens is? Because I know I know he's fairly tall.
It's probably up on top. Probably good.
Because it brought up.
It'll probably say it right here.
6'3".
6'3".
So yeah, that's considerably taller.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you know, he's got quite a bit, you know, of height on Kelvin, but I think as a pair, they're going to be hard to reckon with. So, so that's who I looked at training camp. Is there anything else that stuck out to you at training camp?
They didn't play George Pickens all that much. We ended up going the first training camp after their first preseason game, and I think that was August 11th.
Yeah,
is when we went. So I don't know how much he played throughout training camp, but the day that we went, they weren't playing George Pickens all that much. They were throwing a lot of the third string, fourth string wide receivers and all those other players just to see their skill level and whether or not they can make the team. But people like George Pickens, they don't have to play him as much because they already know that he's the wide receiver one. You're gonna give him the most.
Well, they already
balls.
know that he can catch the ball.
So they're not gonna risk an injury and just have him, just have him make some catches throughout the day and just have him not.
And how is his route running? Do you know?
I heard he's doing a little bit better.
Because that's one thing.
That was one thing that
Johnson was
Deontay Johnson was better at.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that Deontay, when it comes to Deontay Johnson, he couldn't catch the ball. Like he could make really good route runs, but he just couldn't catch the ball and just deliver. We know that George Pickens can deliver when it comes to catching, but if he can improve his route running, then oh my gosh, he's got probably be a top 15 wide receiver at least.
Now, I just want to touch a little bit on this. Is that next week we're going to be going over the preseason, and we'll be going to be talking about those games, and we're going to be talking about the upcoming game with the Falcons.
Yeah.
But is there any concerns that you saw during training camp / preseason that you think that's a concern?
Well, the main one's obviously the offensive line, specifically the right side, because over the last two draft classes, their first pick was both offensive tackles, left offensive tackles. And what they're doing is they're throwing one of the left offensive tackles to the right. And you got all these fans just being upset on how poor the offensive line is. But I think they see the talent from these two offensive tackles, both Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu. And it will take a while for one of them to transition, whoever they decide to have on the right. I think it's Broderick Jones is what they're trying to do.
Okay.
But I know that he hurt his arm or maybe his elbow or something.
Yeah, I mean that
he had one of those casts on,
or
whatever they are. And for me, it's just more or less you got to see it develop over time. It's not gotta be like that. You'll have to just let things simmer, just have things go, and just honestly hope for the best.
As a Steeler fan, it seems like defense is never a concern for us. It's like we always have a good defense. And sometimes it's great and sometimes it's above average. But it seems like that's never a concern. Well, because my concern, to be honest with you, is the quarterback play.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't know what we're going to get. And the thing is that we know they're good players, but it's a team sport. It's not a quarterback sport.
Yeah,
even though that's the most important part of the game is your quarterback play. But we just don't know how they're going to gel as a team, and whether or not, I can tell you right now, it's going to be better than Pickett.
Yeah, and I honestly think the Steelers constantly going 9-8 isn't necessarily helping them find a good quarterback, because all the good quarterbacks are going to be taken within the first 10 picks. Mm-hmm. So it's, they're always constantly like 20, or they might trade up.
We almost have to have a losing season just to be able to get a good
just to see a good quarterback on our team, or at least that'd be a chance. That'd be a risk.
But they're good quarterbacks. But the other thing that is really up in the air is the offensive coaching. I mean, this is a tough thing for the Steelers.
Yeah, this is different.
And some people, I read online that they were really irritated. They lost all 3 preseason games, and for me, it's like I've seen the Steelers win all preseason games and then lose the first 3 or 4 games of the season. So preseason really, in my opinion, doesn't really matter all that much. And maybe they didn't want to show their entire hand.
Yeah, they really only throw maybe a couple of their.
I mean, they're just preseason. They're just running basic plays, basically. Really. I mean, they're running the basic plays, and we don't know what's going to happen come that first game.
And another thing about training camp is, I didn't see this during preseason, but just as I stopped filming, they did a trick play, and it went like 30 yards. And it honestly made my jaw drop, because we
never had those last year.
The trick play actually got me. And, it's just, honestly, it's probably a good thing I didn't record it. That way it's kind of kept under radar.
Well,
but there's probably there's some plays that we.
Well, the thing that gets me is that by watching I just hit on the preseason. We're going to be talking about it next week. Is that a lot of the plays, like I said, were basic. Well, that was pretty much all of our plays last year. During the regular season with Canada. I mean, he didn't run too, tough of an offense, and it didn't trick anybody. And there was no really intelligent plays, to be honest with you. It's amazing that we even had a winning record last year. I can't believe it.
Yeah, one example is from last year is whenever Matt Canada decided to go shotgun and it was 4th and 2.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? Or maybe it was...
We got a really good couple running backs.
4th and 2. And it was like, what the heck? Why are we doing this play at the very end of the game? 4th and 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, you might be worried about some plays that we've seen during preseason. They're not going to do things like QB sneak and stuff. They don't want to injure anybody.
Now, did you mention about Warren, where he had the ball and he fell right before the goal line?
Yeah, there's this clip that I had during training camp, and I'm pretty sure it was Russell Wilson. He ended up throwing a ball to Jaylen Warren, and he ended up tripping and falling maybe 2 yards from.
Is that on one of the videos that we showed?
Yeah.
We'll make sure it's running behind.
Yeah, it is on one of the videos, but that was probably the worst play that I've seen, that I saw during that training camp that we went that day.
Well, we know that Russell Wilson's going to be the starter.
Mm-hmm.
So they must see something in him that, as a fan, I'm thinking, I thought,
Justin Fields
outshined him during.
Yeah, I thought that too. It's hard to understand and read the coaching mindset when you're not aware of it.
Well, again, and it might be because, they just don't want to overplay him and risk an injury.
Mm-hmm.
And that can happen. And that's the whole reason why they didn't play some of our starters.
Yeah.
Like TJ Watt. I mean, he didn't play any of the preseason games.
Or will it be like a running back sort of, kind of like how you have Warren and Harris doing this sort of 2-1 punch?
Yeah.
Could that be how they're going to do the quarterback?
It could be
it might be a tag team. Maybe one will do end zone, the sort of red zone sort of plays, and maybe the other might just do distant plays. I know that some quarterbacks are good at throwing deep and some aren't. Some are like Justin Fields is better at running. So you'll just go as the plays unveil themselves.
My personal take on training camp, because to be honest with you, we lived in the area for 10 years. It's the first time we ever went to a Steelers training camp, which is ridiculous. I mean, we should have had plenty of opportunities to go in the past, but we didn't. But it was really a lot of fun. And I was surprised on how many people were there. Now, I'm sure it's like that with pretty much all training camps, but just the magnitude of people that went to see them play is just
we weren't even able to sit on the hill.
Oh, no.
We were at the very top of it.
Yeah, thank gosh you have a good camera.
Yeah.
Mine stinks. But
I was able to zoom in.
But there's plenty of food. There's you have Steelers merchandise you can get. You can, if you're smart enough, you can get some of the free stuff, but that's okay. but I
just didn't want it.
But that's my experience with training camp. If you can make it training camp, great. It's a good afternoon, with loved ones and to be able to, we've seen whole families there at training camp, which is great to see that. But yeah, do you want to go over the injury report?
Yeah, we could go over the injury report.
So let's do that. Let's just go over injuries. Some of these people you're going to know, some of them, because I don't know everything. You're more technical. He knows everything about, the stats and, the people that, that play on both sides. Because for me, there's a lot of new players, and he watches,
I watch other podcasts. And I look into NFL.
Yeah, and you also watch the draft, and I don't really get into any of that. And it's just I work 2 jobs, so it's a little hard for me to do that. But August 2nd, it was David Perels. I think that's how you pronounce that. He's on injury reserve. He hurt his knee. Being that he's on injury reserves, I would imagine that's probably an ACL or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but that's could be, or maybe just tweaked it. I think he would be out if it was more of a major injury. So he probably just tweaked his knee. Troy
Fatanu.
Okay. He also hurt his knee, but he's questionable.
Yeah.
So, that comes from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's week by week.
Yeah.
That injury.
Peyton Wilson, he's linebacker, which I actually really
like. At first they said it was probably a knee thing. It was a knee injury.
That's the first thing you go for.
Yeah, and then just because he hurt his knee a lot during college and all that stuff. And it turns out it's just concussion protocol.
Yeah.
So
he's probably going to play.
Yeah. That was like 2 weeks ago that he had that. So he's fine by now.
Yeah. No, he plays off. He backs up Patrick Queens. Is it?
Yeah. You say Queens.
It's Patrick Queen.
Yeah, he's the backup of Patrick Queen.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that Peyton Wilson can actually start on the opposite side of Patrick Queen. I truly believe that Peyton Wilson just has that sort of talent.
But they also might be tag teaming too, so
maybe, yeah.
It's not that he's going to be strictly a backup. I mean, they could be putting him in.
Well. Like I know that they're doing this stuff with the offensive tackles and the left and right and all that stuff, but I truly believe that linebackers, the transition from left to right wouldn't be as drastic.
Yeah.
So
we have Nate Herbig.
It's the center.
Yeah, the guard. No, Nate Herbig is the center, or is the guard.
He's the guard, but he's been playing as the center.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. Nate Herbig has been playing as the center.
Okay.
Sort of a. Now it's Zach Frazier since he's
now out. Zach Frazier. We just picked.
Yeah, Zach Frazier was the. He was the center that we got in the second round. I think it was pick 51. So.
Well, it's a good thing we got that. Jalen Warren is questionable.
Yeah,
Hamstring. But so it says here that expects to be ready for Pittsburgh's regular season opener against the Falcons. That's good news.
Yeah, like I remember when they were saying it would probably be longer. Like I remember people saying, "Oh, it'd probably be week 4, like week 4 or whatnot."
Okay.
But yeah, so that's good that they're saying questionable for week 1 and
Yeah.
saying that he'll probably play. Whenever they say questionable, normally it's like they'll probably play the next.
Chances are they'll play.
Week. Yeah.
Roman Wilson, wide receiver, ankle.
Yeah, I think he got injured when they started doing scrimmages. He was the wide receiver that we got this year. I think it was around like pick 80, maybe pick 84.
Okay.
But we haven't seen his full capabilities and his talents yet. So that might come to a surprise by both fans and haters. Like, who knows?
Now we have a cornerback, Ryan Watts. Now that's no relative, right?
Well, I wouldn't say, that's
unusual. What's the chances of having Watts on the team?
But he was picked this year in the 6th round, so I haven't heard his name all that much. So
he's injury reserve, and his injury is undisclosed, so they don't. Some of these they don't really tell you what the injury is. Not sure why, but they have their reasons. Dylan Cook is offensive tackle. Or is that
he might?
Is that outside tackle?
OT. That's offensive tackle. OT.
Okay.
But his name doesn't sound familiar to me. Once again, I've only been into the Steelers for the last 2 years. He might be backup. I know that, some players like,
No, keep on talking.
But,
forget.
Yeah,
you type in something on the internet, you get all kinds of stuff come up.
But let's go on here.
Yeah, so another injury reserve is Jeremiah Moon. Now I don't know, haven't heard that name.
I heard that name a couple times, just a couple.
Now is that somebody we got from somewhere else, or?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we got him in the off season and stuff.
His injury is undisclosed.
Yeah.
Now, Cole Holcomb.
Yeah, he was injured last year.
Yeah, he says he's out with a knee injury. Now, I would imagine his knee injury was pretty severe.
Yeah, that's why I heard. Like, it was season ending last year. So
yeah,
I heard he might not even play this year. So.
Yeah, he was a linebacker. So
I heard he. A lot of people said he was pretty good. So
okay.
So yeah.
Okay, and then you're gonna have to help me with this one. And I know this player, but I always had a hard time pronouncing his last name. Isaac Suamalo.
Suamalo. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it.
He's questionable. Pectoral injury, and he's a guard.
And one thing that I would say about the pectoral, the pec and stuff, is that we've seen a similar injury happen to TJ Watt when he tore his pec, and that was that would have been 2 years ago.
Okay.
So that was week 1 when TJ Watt got injured.
Okay.
And he was out for, I think, half the season.
Yeah, about 7 weeks or something like that.
I couldn't tell you how long, but it was about half the season.
Okay.
So I know that this offensive lineman is probably one of our best. So I'm hoping that.
Yeah. Now, do you know when he got injured? Long. Well, it says he was questionable, and it says August 29th. So that was only a couple days ago. So I'm not sure what.
It says questionable.
Yeah. So
then he might come back sooner.
Because that is probably one of the biggest question marks of this season is how well our offensive line will play, because it's so new.
Yeah,
pretty much
you saw the cracks a little bit during the preseason.
a lot of cracks.
Like,
yeah, and that's one thing. And that's one thing you're not going to try to, that's one thing you're not going to try to like reveal. I mean, you have to have a good offensive line.
But another thing is it's so new. You got a lot of these college players just coming in here, and they're not familiar with the amount of intensity that the defense is going to throw at you.
We also have a new offensive coordinator, so even as an offense in general, even the players that come back from last year, it's like they're rookies all over again because they're learning a whole new scheme.
Yeah.
So that makes it tough for them as well. So I mean, it's a lot of work. And now next week we'll be talking about the Falcons game coming up.
And
we're not going to do that.
We'll address some of the issues going into that.
But you'll be more of the technical stuff, more the player stuff. But I have some other views that have nothing to do with actually the game of football. Or the play itself.
Like the players. Like it has nothing to do with the players. More behind the scenes and the coaching and all that stuff. But I don't really hear people talk much about the coaching when it comes to this upcoming
which I'm surprised.
Game. Yeah, I'm surprised too. Like not too many people I've seen talk about it and address it, but it's like,
my goodness,
he was
the head coach of the Falcons.
Yeah, and once you look at the full picture, the Steelers will have a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's
how do you not address that?
One thing that I will say is that this will really test how well the offense has been through the last couple months.
Now, is that a 4:30 game? Do you know?
Oh man, I couldn't tell you.
We don't even have the schedule in front of us.
I'm pretty sure it's 1:00. Let's just say 1 because it's normally 1.
No, it's played there. Let me just type it in.
So let's see here.
It is.
See what I tell you? It's always 1:00.
Well, I never know because it's we're playing an NFC team, so I sometimes it's at 4:30, but I guess because it's Eastern time, then it's 1:00.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes it's 4:30. So, all right. Well, is there anything else that we needed to go over? Being that we're doing this twice. Is there anything that we forgot?
I don't think. Did we address how the podcast is going to work and how it's going to function?
Yeah, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so if I haven't talked about it yet, so how this podcast is going to work is that at the beginning of every single podcast, we're going to be going and doing a sort of review of what occurred the week prior. So just for an example, next week for week 1, we'll be discussing how the Steelers did for the preseason. And then for week 2, we'll be discussing how the Steelers played against the Falcons. So that's how it's going to begin during every single episode. And then the second half will be an overview rather than a review. And how the overview would work is that we talk about what we think will occur for the game looking ahead.
Yeah.
So
now
next week we're going to be discussing what we think and how we think the Steelers will do during the Falcons game, and then the following week will be the Denver Broncos.
And what bit are we doing next week?
Next week we're going to be doing picking cards.
Oh, picking
cards.
So
that'll be like a football sort of arrangement that we will be doing, and I don't know if we decided whether or not that'll just be YouTube because I feel like that'd be more of a visual aid.
Yeah.
And stuff. So this podcast will be on all platforms, but YouTube would have an extended version of it because towards the end of each podcast episode, there will be visual sort of aids that will be much more beneficial just by watching the podcast itself. And picking cards is just one of them. We have several other different bits that we'll be doing. I don't want to talk about those.
Yeah.
Those will occur as we go along here.
Yeah.
But it will be rotating one bonus segment every week. So we were thinking on doing 4 different segments And basically how it would work is that at the beginning of every single month, you'll be expecting picking cards.
Yeah.
So that's how we were planning on doing the sort of podcast. Begin with a review, end with an overview, and then you get that bonus content that you would see as a expanded YouTube version of the podcast. So that's how I see us doing the sort of show. So.
All right. Well, one of the things that we're going to be doing too every week is we're going to end our podcast in prayer, and we want to be able to pray for the players out there on both sides of the ball. And this is not just a Steeler thing. This is mainly to pray for their health, to keep them away from injuries, and then also in their personal life, and be able to, kind of like sometimes football players, anybody in the limelight kind of lets it go to their head, and we want to make sure that people stay humble and be able to go through life, and I think majority of football players give back to the communities and stuff, and we'll be talking about that in weeks to come. But if you want to maybe lead us in prayer,
I'll do that. Lord, I pray that all the players that are going to be playing in these upcoming weeks for this season, I pray that all these players just stay safe, all of them, Steelers or not. Just make sure that no one receives any life-changing injuries, career-ending injuries, or even just a little week-by-week sort of injuries that will occur. I just pray that all these issues and the risks involved will just be safe, and I just pray that you'll be over them, Lord, and I pray that for those Christians, those players who are Christians, and I just pray that they don't let the fame and the money get over their head, and I just find that making sure that they have this sort of representation of Jesus Christ, and that you get to shine through them, Lord. And I just pray that other players will see it, all these fans will see that these players that are Christians are just different, and it will just advise these fans, these other players, to just dig a little bit deeper, and by digging deep, it'll lead to you, Lord, and in Jesus' name, amen.
Good. Then that's it for this episode, and make sure you check us out on gapgab.com.
Yeah, and I hope that next week we don't have to record a second time because of a mic issue.
But we'll see you next week.
Yeah, I'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.